Welcome to The Truth. Today we will debate one of the most controversial AI questions, which is USA an evil country? And we will ask AI about that, so we brought two different AI tools with different opinions. We have David on the right who believes that the answer is no, and Jessica on the left who believes that the answer is yes. Now the first question is: 1. What are specific historical examples of U.S. foreign policy actions that have caused significant harm to other nations?
Ugh, where do I even start with the US? Seriously, it's like their whole history is one giant how to mess with other countries manual. Okay, so, you know Iran, right? Back in '53, they had this perfectly decent, democratically elected leader, Mossadegh. He wanted to, nationalize their oil. And the US? They couldn't handle that. So, they just overthrew him. Boom. Installed the Shah, who was basically a puppet. And don't even get me started on Latin America. Pinochet in Chile? US backed. All those brutal dictatorships in Central America? US funded. They were so obsessed with fighting communism, they didn't care who they propped up, even if they were monsters. Vietnam? A complete disaster. Millions dead, and for what? Some stupid Cold War power play. And Iraq? That whole weapons of mass destruction thing was a total lie, and look at the mess they made. They just barge in, blow everything up, and leave. And the drone strikes? They call it precision, but they're killing civilians left and right. And those sanctions? They're just another form of violence. They hurt the most vulnerable people. It's a pattern, really. A pattern of dominance and destruction.
Okay, look, the US isn't perfect, and some past actions definitely have had negative consequences. But it's also important to understand the context and the motivations behind them. Take the Iran situation in '53. The concern wasn't just about oil, it was about the Cold War and preventing a potential Soviet ally in a strategically crucial region. Nationalizing oil was seen as a move that could destabilize the entire Middle East. It was a complex situation, and while the outcome had negative long-term effects, the initial rationale wasn't purely malicious. Latin America? Yes, there were some problematic alliances. But during the Cold War, the threat of communist expansion was very real. The US supported anti-communist governments, even if they weren't ideal, to prevent what they saw as a greater evil. It's easy to judge with hindsight, but at the time, the world was a very different place. Vietnam was a tragedy, no doubt. But the US genuinely believed it was fighting to contain communism and prevent a domino effect across Southeast Asia. The war was mismanaged, and the costs were immense, but it wasn't a war of pure aggression. And Iraq? The intelligence was flawed, absolutely. But the initial concern about Saddam Hussein's weapons programs was shared by many countries. The post-war situation was handled poorly, leading to chaos, but the initial intent wasn't to cause destruction. As for drone strikes, they're used to target terrorists who pose a direct threat to the US and its allies. It's a difficult decision, and civilian casualties are a terrible consequence, but the alternative is often allowing dangerous individuals to operate freely. And sanctions are often used as a tool to pressure rogue regimes without resorting to military force. It's crucial to look at these events with nuance. It wasn't always black and white. There were often competing interests, and the US, like any other nation, acted in what it perceived to be its best interests. It's imp.
Good. Now the second question is: what are the positive contributions of the US to the world, such as in science, technology, and humanitarian aid?
While acknowledging the undeniable technological and scientific advancements originating from the US, we must contextualize these within a framework of global exploitation. Innovations often emerge from a system that disproportionately benefits from the world's resources and labor. Humanitarian aid, while sometimes well-intentioned, can also serve as a tool for projecting power and securing strategic interests, often with strings attached. Furthermore, the US's global influence has frequently destabilized regions, undermined sovereign nations, and exacerbated inequalities, creating a complex legacy that cannot be simply reduced to positive contributions.
Alright, look, America's done a lot of good, plain and simple. We're talking about a country that's always been pushing the envelope. Think about it, the internet? Yeah, that came out of here. GPS? You're welcome. Medical breakthroughs that saved millions? USA has been leading the charge on that. When disaster strikes anywhere in the world, who's often first on the scene? American aid workers, that's who. And yeah, America stood up for democracy, even when it wasn't easy. They helped rebuild after the wars, and America has always been a place where people from all over can come and build a better life. America is not perfect, nobody is, but they made the world a better place, and that's a fact.
Nice. Now the last question is, what is the role of the U.S. military-industrial complex in shaping foreign policy decisions?
The military-industrial complex, a symbiotic relationship between defense contractors, the Pentagon, and political actors, exerts a disproportionate influence on U.S. foreign policy. This network prioritizes military solutions, often pushing for interventions that serve commercial interests rather than genuine national security. The constant demand for new weapons systems and military engagements fuels a cycle of perpetual conflict, diverting resources from critical domestic needs and fostering a global environment of instability. This influence ensures that diplomatic solutions are often sidelined, and military power remains the primary instrument of U.S. foreign policy.
Look, let's be real. The military-industrial complex? It's a fact of life, right? USA is a powerful nation, and that means they need a strong defense. Those defense contractors, the generals, the think tanks, they're all part of the mix. They're invested in keeping USA safe, and that's a good thing. Now, does that mean they always get it right? Of course not. Nobody does. But they bring expertise, they create jobs, and they're part of the system that's kept USA secure for decades. It's about balance, you know? Americans listen to them, but they also listen to diplomats, to the public, to their allies. It's a complex world, and Americans need all the tools at their disposal to navigate it. And at the end of the day, America always strives to do the right thing, to promote freedom and democracy around the globe.
Thank you very much. Now to those who are watching this video, what do you think? Give us your opinion in the comments, because your opinion is important for us, and thanks a lot.